Emily Penn, oceans advocate, skipper, and award-winning environmentalist. Welcome to Al-Arabiya.
Hello, Talal. Great to be here.
Emily, what do we have to do if we want to continue to count on the oceans as a source of food, source of energy, transportation, and minerals for generations to come? What do we have to do?
I think the first thing is about understanding how precious our amazing ocean is. It covers 70% of our planet, and literally our own health, the oxygen that we breathe, the water that we drink, it comes from the ocean. We really depend on it. And so firstly, we need to really understand how important it is, and then what we're doing to change it. These huge implications that we currently are inflicting on the ocean, whether it's through climate change or through pollution. We need to understand them, and then we need to solve these issues. We need to work on solutions to really stop this pollution and destruction for our ocean so that we can carry on enjoying the amazing things it brings us.
We see many projects underway to eliminate plastics from the sea. Can we really clean the oceans from plastics?
I think trying to clean the ocean of plastic is the most immense challenge, because one of the things that we've realised from the 10 years that we have spent out at sea studying this problem is that by the time the plastic makes its way from land into these gyres, these accumulation zones in the middle of our oceans, it fragments into small pieces. I've actually got a sample of what the middle of one of these gyres looks like. And as you can see here, it's actually more of a soup of plastic fragments. Now, the problem with that is they're really hard to extract. There's actually 5 trillion pieces of plastic this big, so smaller than my little fingernail, that are currently on the surface of the ocean. Many times that sink down to the depths in a place that's so deep we can't even measure what's going on down there, let alone trying to clean it up. So the message here is, rather than focusing on cleaning up, which is a big challenge, we need to look at stopping this problem getting any worse. There's 8 million tonnes of plastic going into our ocean every year. So the biggest opportunity for change that we have right now is to prevent that plastic going in the first place.
So are you advocating to stop all efforts to clean the oceans and the rivers?
We're not saying stop, because it's still a really great thing you can be doing, particularly, as you say, the rivers, the beaches, the places that are close to land, because they're all sources of plastic that are going into the ocean. So if you can clean up a river and stop that flow into the sea every year, then that is preventing it at the source. So that's exactly where we should be focusing our cleanup efforts, is right here on land, places within our reach.
The projects that you do, if you're not aiming to clean the oceans from plastics, what are you really doing exactly?
So we're getting out there to these really hard to reach parts of the world, places that take us weeks by boat to get to, and by the time that we get there, the closest people to us are actually in the space station, in orbit, above our heads. We get out there to these parts of the world that nobody else sees to try and understand what's going on. So a big part of the project is to do scientific research. We need to understand what's happening to the plastic when it gets there, what impact is it having on the natural environment, so what impact is it having on the birds, on the marine mammals, on the fish that all live in that part of the world, and also what is it that we can all then do to solve it, because we need to properly understand the problem before we actually know where to start with the solutions. So there's many different angles, as well as, of course, telling the story and sharing with the rest of the world what we're seeing in these parts of the planet that so few people get to actually visit.
Is there an ideal way to get rid of plastics in the ocean? Is there one?
So if we do want to try and get rid of it, one of the ways we can start is by looking at how the ocean currents move. And we have these rotating currents, which actually are what accumulates the plastic, but it also ends up pushing it out. So if we follow that current eventually to a coastline, the plastic's going to keep coming out. If we remove it, then we're essentially removing the plastic from the ocean without having to worry about damaging the marine life that's out there living among it. So if we were going to say clean up, that's the place to start. But the ultimate answer is let's stop any more getting in. Let's prevent it from leaving land. And better still, let's not use plastic. Let's not make plastic, because if we're not using it, then we never need to worry about the fact that it might one day end up in the ocean.
Well, what can we really do to reduce plastic consumptions? As you just said, can we design a whole economies where plastic never becomes wasted?
Well, exactly. It's a great challenge, a design challenge, really. And when we do look upstream, I think there's many ways that we can actually solve the problem. And that's the good news. The bad news is there's not one way that we can do it, but the good news is that we can be working from all different angles in society. So there's things that governments can do. We can look at policies to actually ban the use of plastic and control the use of materials in particularly wasteful ways. We can then look at industry to be redesigning products in different ways. And this, for me, is the really exciting part of how do we actually design, as you say, a new system. And I think that involves a way of looking at a closed loop system. So nature works in circles. Everything goes round in a loop, and one thing's waste becomes the next thing's resource. And if we had that mentality with our products, if we were designing for, if it's a plastic bottle, it needs to remain a plastic bottle forever. If it's a running shoe, it needs to remain a running shoe forever and stay in this closed loop system, then we would never have waste at the end. And alternatively, we can look at things that need to be degradable and actually create truly biodegradable products and materials that will disappear and leave no trace, rather than at the moment the way we use a material, plastic, that's designed to last forever for a product that's designed to be used just once and thrown away. So once we move beyond that mentality, I think there's so many solutions for solving this problem on land.
Let's talk about recycling. In the United States, one of the most advanced countries in the world, if it's not the most advanced, only 7% of plastics is recycled. In the MENA region, in the Middle East, my area, like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, only 10% of plastic is recycled. Is that the solution, recycling?
Well, it's a really great point that you raise, that the recycling rates are so low. And the reason those numbers are lower than you would expect is because plastic is a term that we give to hundreds of different materials. If you think about all those types of plastic that we use every day, some are stretchy, some are hard, some are clear, coloured. To give them those different properties, they need a different chemical structure. But when we recycle something, we can only take one type of plastic at a time. So recycling rates are low because we have too much variety of products. And we also have products where we make things that are stuck together, like a toothbrush has got 4 types of plastic stuck together. So we're not designing our products to be recycled, so they're not getting recycled. So at the moment, I would say to your question, no, recycling is not the answer because we're not designing our products in the right way. However, if we redesign and innovate so that our products are designed to be recycled, and we have the systems in our society to match that design, then I think it is a really good answer to look at for this idea of closing the loop and designing a system that never produces waste.
I'd like to move to bottled water. These days, it's so popular because it's readily available, and we think somehow it's cleaner than the tap water that we get from at our homes. But around the world, 75% of plastic bottles end up in landfills, and where they may never completely decompose. Your thoughts on bottled water?
Bottled water, I think, is one of the biggest challenges we have at the moment when we start thinking about plastic consumption, because, as you say, a lot of parts of the world, we actually don't have a clean running water supply, which is obviously vital for our health. So I think some parts of the world, it's very easy to overcome bottled water. If there's a clean drinking supply, then there's really no excuse to be drinking bottled water, and it's very easy to eliminate. And as you say, those plastic bottles, they don't decompose, and a lot of them do end up in the ocean.
Emily, I'd like to move to your plans for the near future. In October, I understand you're planning a sailing exhibition around the world that will take 2 years to complete, consists of 30 legs, 10 women crew on each leg of these 30 legs, and you have already received thousands of applications, and you would like to have more, maybe from the Middle East as well, women from the Middle East ready to come and share your adventure and research. Can you tell us more about this trip?
So this is an opportunity for women from all over the world to join us and see for themselves firsthand what this issue of marine plastic pollution really looks like, and carry out scientific research to understand where this plastic's coming from and therefore what solutions we need to be thinking about. And also be part of sharing the story of not only the fact that there's plastic out there, but really understanding what the problem is, so we can carry those messages back to land, back to the towns that we come from, the communities that we live in, the schools that our children go to, and the places where we work, to be able to carry those messages back, to be able to create change then back on land. So we will be taking this multidisciplinary, diverse group of women out to do this project. As you said, there will be 30 legs, each ranging between 1 and 5 weeks at sea. 10 women at a time will have a chance to be involved, and we would really love to hear from anyone who would like to take part in this voyage. There's an application process on the website, which is www.expedition, that's with 2 X's, .com, and that's the place to start to get all of the information if you would like to join or also support what we are doing in any other way, because we need more leaders. We need more people who are educated on the problem, can bring those findings back to land and actually be working on solutions as part of this amazing global community that we're currently creating.
Emily Penn, oceans advocate, skipper, and award-winning environmentalist, we wish you all the very best of luck in your endeavors. Thank you for this interview as well.
Thank you, Talal.